Namaskar, Om Gurave Namah. So, here is another segment of the series that we have been doing for the last couple of times on various results related to 7th house from the classic Jataka Parijata. Okay, so we had covered few shlokas previously. Now we are in the third shloka, and in the third shloka also we have various conditions. We had covered this first, and even the second is sort of similar to the first, so it has been covered in the previous lecture, so you can refer to that. Now we are going to this third one, which I marked in red color. So, do note in the previous case we were talking of the Lagna being afflicted. In this case, the difference is that instead of Lagna, we are talking of the seventh house. So, the seventh house is having sixth lord, second lord, and first lord. Okay, along with the malefic. And this is saying Parastri Rata. Parastri meaning the Stri of someone else, meaning the wife or partner of someone else. So, someone who has eyes over the women of others. And it can apply to a lady also who may be eyeing others. So, this may be something you may say as causing extramarital affairs. Now, this is, I think, a step ahead than the previous one. The previous one said kamuka, meaning there is a general desire, high level of desire or orientation towards sex and all that. If there are too many malefics involved, as we saw in a couple of cases, it can impact it too much. While there are also other cases where it is not so bad if there is no overall benefic influence. But here, you see, there is very clearly mention of a malefic over here. Okay, so we are talking of sixth lord and a malefic. Now I've already explained in the previous case why sixth lord. Sixth lord is one of the Dusthana lords, and sixth house is specifically about Shadripus, which is our weaknesses. It is about bad karma that we do. So sins that we do. It is the Mula Trikona Rashi of Rahu. So Rahu is the one who, due to desires, makes us do wrong things, do wrong karma. Okay, and this causes our rebirth in future. Okay, so that is related to the sixth house. On top of that, there's a malefic also involved. So though there is not a mention of Venus over here, but I would suggest that you should also look at Venus, if whether how Venus is situated and all that. That can have a bearing. Okay. Now, first and second lord both are involved. See, when first lord is about your viveka, your buddhi, okay, and second lord is your speech, what you agree to do, sort of. When both of these are affected, right? I'm giving a new interpretation of second house over here. Last time I had said second house and seventh house affected is the natural house of Venus. That is also important. And another way you can look at it is second house about speech, what you agree to do and all that. So it is wrong actions in terms of your thoughts, your deeds, and your what you say as well. Okay. Now that is with sixth lord and a malefic, and that is why it is a more serious problem. Okay. So here there may be desire, maybe a person may indulge a little, but this can be much more severe indulgences. That's my reading of it. Now here is a typical case, and today again I'll be sharing you a few examples, as I said in the previous case, and you would have seen with the kind of examples I showed to you how it made a big difference in understanding the shloka. The same dictum is applicable in all the charts, but how they impact makes a big difference. In one case it's much more severe, in one case it's much lesser. How to one of that was a priest, a father who was a celibate, right? There were some other issues, but he was a celibate, so you can understand to that much. So how this impacts, you can understand. Okay, so in the case of father, it didn't really impact, and do go and see why it didn't impact. Okay, it would be a good quiz for you. Let me know in the comments why it didn't impact in the case of Father Kroll. I think John Kroll was his name. See in the previous video of mine. Okay. So similarly here also I'll be showing you a few cases, few examples. And again, the impact of this is very different, and we'll try and understand. Okay. Now, here is a typical case. This is not of any particular chart as such, but where this is applicable. So, this is what Kanya Lagna, Virgo Lagna. First Lord is Mercury, debilitated in the seventh house. That's what we require, first Lord in the seventh house. Second Lord is Venus, it is in the seventh house, it's exalted though, right? And sixth Lord is Saturn. Saturn is also in the seventh house. In fact, you can say Kumbha is two lords, Saturn and Rahu, both of them are in the seventh house. Okay. On top of that, you have the 12th Lord Sun as well over here, right? So, two Dusthana Lords, 6th Lord and 12th Lord are involved over here. And this is also Badhaka Rashi, which is an added problem. Okay. Now, having said that, sorry, you also have Jupiter and Sun having a Parivartana over here, right? But really, can this Jupiter help? It is also retrograde, okay, and if it comes over here, it is also, see, there is overwhelming bad influence. Saturn, Sun, and Rahu, three malefics are there. And on top of that, there's a Rahu Ketu Parivartana. So you can add Ketu also to this mix. So there are two Parivartanas over here. Okay. And Mercury, when it is debilitated and with so many malefic influence, it also tends to be. Mercury is like an in between kind of person. So if there is more malefic influence, it will tend towards that. Then it is a bit too much for Jupiter and Venus alone to handle. It's a bit tough. So it's a touch and go situation. Maybe because of Parivartana, something good can happen, but this is a Daine Parivartana, meaning it's not a good Parivartana overall. Okay, because a Kendra house is having Parivartana with a Dusthana house. That's not a good Parivartana. Let's see a few cases to understand this better. This is a chart of Mary Astor. She is a very famous actress. Almost 100 years back, she started in the what is known as the silent era, and then she also became a great actress during the era when sound and voice was there and all that. And she was considered to be a very, very good actress. She started off as a child actress, in fact. Now, she had a very, very nice image of a sort of a virgin, a very pure lady, and all that. But then she had an extramarital affair, and it was not just about the extramarital affair. Actually, she wrote a diary, and which was quite lurid in the sense of the descriptiveness of. It was only one affair she had. I mean, from what I could find, with only one person. Though she was married quite a few times, I think 3 or 4 times she was married. But that one affair was there, and she wrote a lot about it in this is quite descriptively and all. And that found its way to press, and she was going through divorce proceedings at that time, and it was a big scandal. But nevertheless, she came out of it. Credit to her, she eventually came back, and she did well after that also. So let's look at her chart. So she has Vrishchika Lagna, Scorpio Lagna. Lagnesa is Mangal in the 7th house in a Marana Karakasthana position. Second Lord is Jupiter. Jupiter is also with Mangal. And sixth Lord, Mars is also the sixth Lord. So it is both. It is both the Lagna Lord as well as the sixth Lord. That is the case in case of Vrishchika Lagna and Vrishabha Lagna. That is Taurus as well as Scorpio. In both the cases, the Lagna Lord is also the sixth Lord. Okay. So there is a problem, but nevertheless, do note that there is a lot of benefic influence. There is one single malefic over here. None of the other malefics are really having a drishti on it. So she had one affair, but it was not the end of it. And in fact, one may say she also benefited from the affair because so you have the second Lord in the 7th house that also gives a Srimanta Yoga. Only thing is, this Mars created a problem for her. Okay. But Jupiter and Venus must be said strong, and they are not combust or anything, they are quite strong. Okay, so maybe they're able, and Venus is in own sign with Jupiter, so those things, strength is there over here. And another thing is, the 6th house itself has Sun, which is a malefic, a Krura you may say, but it is also exalted. It's having this drishti of Saturn, I agree, but it is exalted, that is there. Moreover, there is this Graha Malika Yoga, so that is more important. Starting from Ketu to this Jupiter, and Ketu Jupiter form good yoga. Ketu Venus is also decent. So really speaking, I mean Mars Ketu is not good, but here amongst all these planets, Jupiter, Ketu will have a yoga with Jupiter because or maybe Venus because they are more benefic. So it's not overall very bad. So she had a bad phase, but she was able to come out of it. But I'll show you a very very sordid case, a very bad case, and that is this one. This is John Wayne Gacy. Don't mistake this is John Wayne, who was a very great actor. I mean, similar thing in last session also we had. There was a Grace Kelly who was same name as another Grace Kelly, very famous actress, but this was a different lady. This is John Wayne Gacy. Remember the Gacy ahead of it. This guy was also equally famous, but for very bad reasons. He was a serial killer and a rapist, a murderer. I mean, one of the worst. I don't want to describe it in detail. You can read his Wikipedia page if you're interested. But really bad. So I don't want to talk too much and you know make you feel bad about it. I will straight away. Yeah. Sorry, I moved ahead a little bit. So so I'll straight away get into the analysis of this. So this is the same kind of combination. In fact, the same Vrishchika Lagna over here. Here also same Vrishchika Lagna. In fact, you have Jupiter and Mars in the seventh house. Same like the previous case. First Lord, second Lord, and sixth Lord in the seventh house. What is the difference? Difference is here there is Saturn instead of Venus. That makes a big difference. One may say there is a Venus Saturn Parivartana. That doesn't make big difference. There is another issue in this chart, that is there is this Sun and Moon yoga. Now, see, there also Mars was in Varna Karakasthana in the previous case of Mary Esther. Here also Mars is in Varna Karakasthana, but with Saturn it makes a big problem. On top of that, there's a one big key difference compared to the previous chart. See here, when you look at the Kendras, you have Venus, Jupiter, and Moon. There's an overwhelming benefic influence. There's Saturn and Mars, but there's an overwhelming benefit. And even this Saturn is in own sign, so not very badly placed that much. Okay. Here you have Ketu, Rahu. This Mercury is also in Marna Karakasthana, and Saturn and Mars. Overwhelming negative influence. And when you have so many malefics, there is three or four of the Kendras are having malefics, meaning this is called Sarpa Yoga. This is a snake, a vicious snake at that. And Mars and Ketu are in Kendra to each other. That's also a problem. Okay, and this yoga, Mars and Rahu yoga, Saturn yoga, this Rahu Ketu are in Kendra to that, so they are supporting it. So this yoga is very prominent, very strong, and it is very deadly yoga. Mars and Saturn together we call a specific name. We say it is manifestation of Yama. Yama, meaning death energy. That's a very strong death energy over here. If it was just one single Saturn in the seventh house, say Jupiter and Saturn, or just Saturn, that would not have been that bad. But when there are two malefics, Mars and Saturn, and that too this Mars in Varna Karakasthana, and that too with the Sarpa Yoga, this is deadly. On top of that, you have Sun and Moon Yoga. Sun and Moon Yoga is not good. I think, let me just see, I think this guy was maybe Chaturdashi born probably. Let me quickly check it out. It's not mentioned here. No, he was Prativat born. My mistake. Sorry, it's the other way around. Yeah, it's correct. Prativat born. Yeah. So Shukla Prativat born. That is a dosha. So there is this chart has a dosha. So whenever you have people born in the second half of Chaturdashi, the Amavasya, and the first half of Shukla Pratipat, that is a dosha. There is no light over here. This Jupiter may look very good, but it is the dispositor of this Sun and Moon, which is not good. So although fifth Lord, seventh Lord, when you read about this chap, he had a very tough childhood. His father was very abusive, physically very abusive, verbally abusive. So he was demeaned quite a lot. Right, his self confidence was badly shattered by his father. Okay. And he beat him also quite a lot. But when he grew up, he got into a good marriage. He got into very good position and all that. He was earning pretty well. He had good in-laws and all that, and he had two children as well. But that that childhood trauma has created some problem. See, the father we say is also, you can see, from the ninth house from sun. The ninth lord from sun is, you can, is Vrishchika Rashi is the ninth house. Either Mars or Ketu. You may say Mars over here because it's having more planets and all that, with more planets. And you can see this Mars is involved in this yoga. And this has triggered this Mars is giving cross. So there was a lot of repressed anger inside him, and that came out in a very bad way. So unfortunately, a very bad thing, and there is no way out of this. Okay, um, really, there's no way. I mean, this parivartana won't really help with all this sarpa yoga and all that. It's very tough. You have to basically see that all the malefics are involved over here, and even sun and moon are together, so that is also not good. Now, from there we come to a much more, I would say, better chart, even though or this is that of a pornographic actor. What to say that? See, you may think, why am I showing all these charts? But see, mostly people we are talking of Parastri, Rata, and all those things. When you find charts of people, you find charts of people who are notable due to some reason, good or bad, right? So these are the charts you many a times find, where you can be very sure also that it is there, right? In other cases, the person may be in some profession, it is not much written, so we don't know for sure whether people may have extramarital affairs, but we may not know about it. But here it is very clear. I mean, he's a porn actor, so there's no doubt about it, right? Though he was married and all. So, but compared to the previous chart, you will see it's much better. It's not as bad, and that fine analysis is what I want you to understand, how to understand. And see, we are still doing only the Rashi analysis. You can't decide anything just basis Rashi, but you have to start somewhere. As I've said earlier, also, you have to start, and everything has to be understood little by little only. That's why we are focusing over here. So now here we have. This is different. This is a Vrishabha Lagna. The previous two were Vrishchika Lagna. This is Taurus Lagna. And you have the first Lord Venus, second Lord Mercury, and the sixth Lord again Venus. They are all together in the seventh house. Here also Mercury is in Varna Karakasthana. Though it is retrograde, one can see it can behave like being in the Lagna, sort of. There is one malefic also, Sun, with this. So that is the one which is creating problem, and this is causing sexual dosha and all those things. But the good parts is sixth house is relatively cleaner. I mean, it has moon. If you see the behind this sign, you have two benefics. That is also very good. But obviously, yes, Sun and Mercury over here, and this is Atma Karaka, so it's pretty much involved in this. Dhara Karaka is there, so that is also linking to forming relationships and all that. And in the seventh house. See, when Dhara Karaka is in seventh house, that's also not a good position. It's sort of like a Karaka Bhavanasha concept, you may say like that. And the seventh lord is Mars with Saturn, aspected by Rahu. So the seventh lord is also very badly afflicted. So Venus is affected, seventh lord is affected. That's why this is a situation with this person's relationship life. Okay. However, you don't have, I mean, you may say Saturn Mars are forming a Yama Yoga over here, but you see, we are talking in the seventh house. In the seventh house, this combination is not in the seventh house, it's in the third house, which is having a different issue. But when you have this Kendras affected, first house, seventh house, the Kendra themselves are affected badly, that carries a much bigger connotation. Okay. And Saturn over here is the ninth and tenth lord, so not as bad compared to the previous case where it is the third and fourth lord. So not very good for Vrishchika Lagna. So this is Eric Edward, and this is probably my last case on this. So this is a French novelist and a poet. She was basically, it's nothing bad about her, but her orientation was lesbian, and she also had several relationships and all that. She was born in that early 19th, I mean late 19th, early 20th century, when this liberalism kind of thing exploded and all that. So that thing was there. So here we have the first lord, second lord, and sixth lord all together in the seventh house. But do note there is no malefic over here in this along with them. There is a Mars and Mercury parivartana, but this Mars is also with Jupiter, so it's not all that bad. Okay, seventh lord Mars is in the fifth house with Jupiter, which is a good yoga, which is not a bad yoga at all. Okay, and there is a Mars Rahu Parivartana also, by the way. So one may argue whether it's Mars Mercury or Mars Rahu which is going to dominate on this. So there's also possibility that this may not happen, this Mars Mercury Parivartana. This can be more like Mars Rahu. So in that case, this seventh house is even less affected that way. Okay, because there's no malefic influence at all on this. Okay, so basically, this lady didn't have anything as negative. So again, I'm showing you different cases so that you can compare, right? This seventh house is not even as negative as this one. This is Eric Edwards chart, because here you have Sun in the seventh house. Okay, and the seventh lord Mars is very badly situated over here. This is not as bad. Okay, though we may say Mercury is in Varnakaraka and all that issue is there, but still it is comparatively better. And that's why she didn't marry any man, she didn't have a typical married life, she had more of her lesbian partners. Okay, so this is what I had to share. Hope you found it interesting, and please do share your feedback if you have any, and looking forward to meeting you again. Thank you for your patience. Namaste.